And the first day he called me and he was like, Dan, I don't think I could do this. Your biggest competitor is not the other company that's making more money than you. Maybe you're a good business owner, but as a sales manager, you suck.
Hey man, we zijn hier met Dan Crowley, de co-founder en head of sales van Client Ascension.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
So yeah, you have done and reviewed like thousands of sales calls.
Yeah.
And you followed up on thousands of leads coming from internet marketing channels. So what are your main observations in terms of how different internet leads are in comparison to referral or network leads?
Yeah, really good question. So basically everything we do comes from the internet, but specifically cold traffic. So you're running paid ads or they're coming from the internet as opposed to somebody that already knows, likes, and trusts you. These referrals, the warm traffic leads. I would say that the main difference is one, the referral, hey, my buddy introduced me, those are a lot easier to close, but you can only grow that in so many ways. Like you're gonna need internet leads, right? It's inevitable. If you wanna grow the business and you can't grow without your network, you're not gonna be able to increase your network that fast. So having a sales process that can also close those tougher cold traffic internet leads, as you're talking about them, is usually what's required to grow, which is what I do for our company, is just making sure that the sales process A to Z is where it needs to be in order so that our clients and us as a company can close those internet leads. I'd say the main difference between closing somebody that's coming from a referral or from cold traffic on the internet is the trust isn't there quite yet. So if I want to be able to build up that trust after they book a sales call, but before that call happens, or after they even become a lead, but before I'm getting them on a call or at an in-person meeting, whatever my sales process looks like, I want to try to build up as much trust as possible, right? So they're coming in with an understanding and they already know we do good work, they know what we do, so I'm going to be sending them over testimonials, case studies, making sure that I'm getting these guys to the call with a certain level of trust, right? Because if referral leads are here in terms of trust, internet leads are here, so I'm trying to get them closer and closer. Now, when they're in that meeting itself, right, so they're already on the sales call, I'd say the main thing is you just need to have a script that you can build onto, because there's going to be an awkward transition, right? It's not like you're going to go from somebody who's only closed referrals to now I'm a master salesman that can close anybody from cold traffic overnight. But what I see people do wrong time and time again is they're starting this process and every call they're approaching in a unique way. They're basically shooting from the hip. They're ripping everything up from the roots and they're starting over and they're just wondering why they're not seeing any progress. Whereas if you have a script that does all the basic right things, right? You figure out why they booked a call in the first place, you get some background information so you can ask educated questions, you get a real good understanding of what their current situation is, you get a real understanding of where they're looking to go, you get a real understanding of how long they've been struggling with this to create a little bit of pain, create a little bit of urgency, you get a real understanding of how likely they think they are if they don't address the issue, that the situation will get better, which is not very likely, right? Which establishes opportunity costs, and you have a good pitch. So like if all these things are going into your script, even if it's not exactly where it needs to be day one, I can go in there, I can make iterations to the script. I'm gonna be able to build out the process. Because reality is, if you're just starting sales to internet leads as you call them, or cold traffic as I call them, you're probably gonna suck. You're probably going to be maybe like a 3 out of 10. You need to have the self-awareness to understand that as opposed to just blaming the leads. And if you want to incrementally go up from a 3 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 eventually, it's much easier if you're building on that script, if you're building on that existing process, as opposed to just coming into each call once again, shooting from the hip and just treating each opportunity in a brand new, unique way. That's usually not scalable, nor is it effective.
Like for our Belgian audience, let's clear it out once and for all. Like, what is the best time to call a lead after they filled out the form?
Within 90 seconds, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. It's one of the companies in our space, ZoomInfo, because I run Client Ascension. I also run a company called ListKit, which is a B2B data platform. So a large publicly traded company in that space is called ZoomInfo. And one of the things that helped their company scale as much as possible, I was listening to their CEO talk about this on a podcast, was they had a 90-second speed to lead. So somebody requested more information, within a minute and a half, a sales guy dialed them up. And if I'm looking to contact leads, you're working with a guy like Stig, he's gonna get you a lot of leads. One of the biggest metrics you wanna look at is the connection rate. So, okay, somebody opts in to actually learn more, request more information. Usually the biggest drop off is how many of those people do I actually get into a live conversation, right? because if I'm looking at like what my cold callers do, it's like usually a 10 to 12% connection rate. And then from there, 80% of those guys will get into a conversation. At least 50% of those guys will get set for a formal meeting. And that's what we want. And the sales guys handle it from there. But if that number is the smallest one, the 10 to 12%, which is good, if it drops below that, I mean, you're just dealing with such a smaller amount of opportunities. And the biggest way to get that connection rate from where they may be at now, which could be 5, 6, 7%. I've seen all of these to 10, 12, 15, 20% even. I've seen numbers as high as that. The main difference, the main lever that you can pull is just speed to lead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, how should a growing business approach like lead scoring and qualification when they're dealing with like higher volume of leads? So, for example, they get like 50 leads monthly, and now they get like 200 leads or more on a monthly basis.
So I'm assuming your audience is mature enough to have a CRM of some sort. Like they have a way of like housing these leads and tracking them, and they have a pipeline.
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay, hopefully. Well,
yeah, hopefully, yeah.
If you don't have that, you're fucked. I'm kidding. Like it's very important though to see any type of success. Now, if you do have a CRM and you do have a pipeline with specific stages there, the way they're going to do it is by tagging leads based on some sort of routing form. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have Typeform, you have a bunch of different companies that do this, but you should be able to look at your offer and say, okay, which people tend to be the highest LTV clients, which people have the highest chance of closing, just based on the different personas that we talk to. So one helpful exercise just could be to map out and sit down and actually say, okay, what type of businesses do we usually close on calls? What type of businesses tend to be the highest LTV clients? And then it's just a matter of asking questions in the routing form to tag those people in your CRM. And obviously the ones that have the highest probability of closing or the highest probability of being a high LTV clients, those people should take priority. Because as Stig just said, like speed to lead is super important, but a lot of your clients are probably busy at the same time.
Yeah.
And if I have an hour in the morning to make sales calls, I want to focus those sales calls on the people that have the highest potential to close and have the highest potential to pay me a lot of money over their lifetime. So basically, make sure that you have a CRM, make sure you have a routing form that asks these questions to figure out what bucket these people are falling into, tag those people in your CRM, and make sure that, in the sake of speed to lead, your sales team or you, if you're doing the sales yourself, you're prioritizing those leads specifically.
Yeah, and you said it correctly, like when the leads start to flow in, you see that people get a lot more busy.
Yeah.
Let's zoom in on business owners who do all their leads themselves.
Like so they're doing founder-led sales, okay?
Yeah, indeed. So they get on every sales call, like, and they want to transition to hiring the first sales guy. Like, what's the best piece of advice you could give them in order to have success with that first guy? Because a lot of the company's success is on the line at that moment. Like, what is your best piece of advice to like hire the first guy?
Yeah, great question. A lot of times people try to hire a sales guy prematurely. So they're not yet ready to hire a salesperson. The reason why is they don't have a sales process. Because if you're doing founder-led sales, odds are you're selling a lot of your experience, your expertise that you've built up in, over the course of maybe a decade, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, but a lot of time, right? You also care quite a bit about the business because it's your business. And the reality is anybody that you hire, they're not going to care about your business as much as you care about your business. So when most people come to me saying, hey, when should I hire a closer? I'd say 80% of the time it's too soon because, number one, like you need a lot of lead flow. So make sure you have that lead flow that he's talking about where they're getting at least 20, 25 calls per week. But even then, you still need to have a process in place because if you bring somebody in and you just share them your call recordings, hey, this is me closing a bunch of deals, watch your recordings and see if you can replicate that. Once again, if you don't have a process that actually exists outside of you doing founder-led sales and sharing your 4, 5, 6, 10 years of knowledge, it's just not going to work. And I've seen that happen a lot, and people come in, they're like, dude, I'm doing, this person has all the call recordings, why aren't they able to close? Like, this salesperson sucks. I'm like, no, honestly, maybe you're a good business owner, but as a sales manager, you suck. You don't have a script for him to work off of. And even if you do have a script, the way that you're selling on these calls is entirely different than the script itself. And you're expecting somebody to be able to sell the same way you sell, which is off of 10 years of knowledge. How are you supposed to expect that person to perform in the first month? Right? So usually what I recommend that these people do is, one, make sure that you have a script and just analyze it. Number one, are you doing anything similar to that script? If not, continue to edit it. And if you're not doing anything similar to what you're doing on those calls, just make it a challenge for yourself to try to sell without the founder credibility and the founder expertise. So to give you an example of this, I know a lot about cold email. I scaled up a cold email agency to 6 figures a month. We run Client Ascension, which focuses a lot on cold email. We have a lot of cold email content. We teach our clients how to do that. Now, when we launched ListKit, we have this cold email setup offer, which kind of works as like a cold email agency type offer in the beginning, and then clients manage it on their own after that. I've got 7 guys now that all sell at a very high level. They're closing above 30%, selling cold email service. None of those guys knew a lot about cold email coming into it, really. Maybe they were familiar with the concept, but they weren't cold email experts. And the only reason I was able to get those guys up to where they're at now, closing through cold traffic, so I don't have to be sitting there closing all the deals myself, is because when I was building out the script, I made sure that I wasn't leaning too much into my expertise as somebody who's ran cold email for years and somebody who ran a cold email agency. I was making it a challenge, saying, okay, if I can't transfer this easily to somebody, it's not going to work. I'm going to be stuck doing sales calls myself forever. So that's one thing. Like, make sure you're actually ready to hire a salesperson, which means you have a sales process that works and exists outside of you just purely leaning on your experience as a founder. The second thing there, even if you do all of those things, the first sales rep, there's usually going to be some bumps in the road. Like, I've met some people who have hired them and they hire a rock star first time and it's perfect. Like, great, awesome. That's usually not the reality. So
that's a lucky shot.
Lucky shot, right? So I prefer to hire from our network. And the reason why is because if somebody doesn't just want to, if somebody's not joining just because of the earning potential, they're joining our company because they have admiration for me as the founder or one of my co-founders as a founder or the company itself, they're more likely to just actually, fight through that uncomfortable period where they're getting up to full speed. They're most likely to actually stay around, have some perseverance, as opposed to just look for another offer when that first bump in the road does come.
Yeah, have you seen that happen, that someone was like questionable to you in like the first couple of months? Like, is he a good sales guy or no? Or you always have that gut feeling of like, yeah, he has the X factor, he has the potential, or is it more like pushing through and then it clicks?
I've definitely pushed through and seen it click, 100%. And that's usually because I saw that happen more when our companies were less mature. And it wasn't because I was, hiring horrible people. It's just because my sales process wasn't where it needed to be yet. One of our closers who, one of my good buddies actually, grew up with him, and I hired him at Client Ascension, and I didn't really have a sales process. I was really doing the founder-led sales stuff. And the first day he called me and he was like, Dan, I don't think I could do this. I don't know if I could do this. Because he didn't even know what an agency was, and I was just giving him all this stuff and all my call recordings where, once again, I was not following the script. I was just leaning on, founder-led sales and, selling off of the expertise a little bit too much. And I realized, like, okay, this person, I know he's a smart guy. I grew up with him. I know he has potential. Like, he's a good people person. He can talk to somebody and get along with him pretty quickly. I just need to work on the sales script with him. So we kind of persevered and pushed through that. That was early days, right? So if that's where you're at, like, yeah, I think there is a strong probability you can see somebody improve. That said, I still have always had a rule where if they don't get up to half KPI in the first 20 calls, I just fire them. Because it's very difficult to take a 3 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. It's very doable with active management to take a 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10. I always tell people, like, if they're really that far behind, if they can't make that happen, usually trying to work through and push past that point. What I mean by half KPI, guys, is let's say you're shooting for a 30% close rate, and the first 20 calls, they got to be at a bare minimum of a 15% close rate, or just cut them loose. Because especially if you're doing commission-based sales, it's usually too steep of a mountain to climb. And trying to push through that is only going to waste your time and their time. Especially in sales, like, not only is it going to be a drag on you, it's going to be a drag on them, because in commission-based sales, if you're not closing, you're also not making money. So you're not doing people any favors in that end. So that's kind of the way I view it, is like, if they don't hit half KPI in the first 20 calls, that was more so a failure in my hiring process. Like, this person's just too far behind. And I don't want to, try to fight and, an endless war there. But if they do get up to half KPI, I'm like, okay, I can give them another month to get up to full KPI, and those are the types of people that I want to push through. So you have to have a little bit of that gut feeling, subjective, like, do I believe in this person? But you also should have, like, the clear, objective, strong KPIs where it's like, okay, if it's not working by then, I just need to cut the person loose and move on.
Yeah, and when you zoom in on, like, the good people, what's something you noticed about taking them to from good to great? Is it like more tonality? Is it like more pushing on like a dream outcome, pushing on pain? What is it in like your observation?
Yeah, so it's different for every rep, right? But I would say some people struggle a lot more with discovery than pitching. Some people struggle a lot more with pitching than discovery, and it's like, in general, if I was to make a broad strokes generalization, the two things that people struggle with the most is one, just establishing opportunity cost in discovery, which basically is just a shift from the prospect before you start pitching to seeing this, whatever you're selling, as a need to have as opposed to a nice to have.
Yeah, you got to create the urgency.
You're creating urgency, and you're also painting the picture of what happens if they don't fix this. Because no matter what you're selling, I don't know what your business owners like. They could be construction, they could be doing solar, door to door. They could be doing retail, in-person stuff. No matter what you sell, your biggest competitor is not the other company that's making more money than you. It's not the guy running the same shop in in your local town. Your biggest competitor is inaction. It's people just doing nothing. Like, they hop on the call. They don't buy from you, they don't buy from the next guy. They just decide that whatever they came to you for fixing, life can exist in another 3 months. Like, if let's say I'm selling, solar, and it's like, okay, I'm talking to somebody and I'm on their doorstep. If they're just like, I don't really care about where my energy bill is, I can just let it, kind of continue on. It's been fine this way for the 2 years I've lived in this home. What's really gonna happen if I let it persist for another 2 years? Like, those people, like, unless you can establish those opportunity costs, most of the time they don't buy from you, they don't buy from the next guy, they just do fuck all. They kind of just sit on their thumb and don't do anything. So opportunity cost and discovery. And the second thing is holding people accountable at the end of the call, right? Like, actually, once you establish opportunity costs, we've decided that they need to do something.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore, the worst decision that they can make is doing nothing. Right? And this is where like active closing comes in. And even if you have a good offer, you're gonna have to like actively close people and sell them. It's not gonna be all like frictionless laydowns where people are like, yep, cool, sign me up. And the reason why is because even though these people know they need help with whatever you're selling, which is why they booked the call in the first place, they haven't done it yet. So they're looking to go through some transformation. They're looking to go from point A to point B. They're looking to go from poor to rich. They're looking to go from fat to skinny. Whatever that transformation is, they're still not the person who's gone through that transformation yet. So the thing that's needed to get them from point A to point B is inherently foreign to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in order to actually get them to make the commitment to make that transformation, there's going to need to be some hard closing there, right? And it's not as much of like high pressure, hard closing if you've already established opportunity costs, which is essentially like, hey, you need to do something. Because once again, going back to what I said earlier, like the biggest competitor for whatever your offer is almost always inaction. It's people just letting their current situation persist.
Yeah, and do you close like on that note, or do you close them on like the point B that you painted the picture of like the ideal world, or do you like more close on?
Well, you do both, but you're not going to be a great closer if you can only close people by convincing them that you'll get to point B, because a lot of times point B is completely unrealistic. Right? Like, take our program, for example. We help agencies grow, and a lot of agency owners want to grow from 1K a month to 500K a month. If I was to tell everybody that we could do that in 12 months, would I close more people? Sure, but would there also be disputes and a lot of shit on Reddit about us and people that are like, oh, Dan said that we could do this and we didn't? Painting that picture of what point B looks like is important, but you need to be good enough to also set good expectations for fulfillment. So that's why it's much more like, I tend to lean into, hey, you have to do something, and showing them the quick wins and the achievable ones. Yes, exactly. As opposed to just saying like, you could close a lot of people if you were like, hey, you want to get to 50K a month? Cool, done. Like, we can get you there. But once again, like your fulfillment team's going to hate you. You're going to have a lot of refunds. You're going to have a lot of disputes, and nobody's going to win. Neither you nor the prospect long term.
If you compare it to like weight loss, you don't close, for example, on like, you're gonna lose like 10 kilos, but more of like, are you ready to start because this and this and this.
And honestly, it not only is it more ethical, I believe that it works more long term. I think the big transformations work better in marketing than sales. Which, like, the weight loss example is fun to use because it's super simple. Like, if I'm telling somebody like, the goal here is to lose 100 pounds, if I just say that in marketing, like, yeah, maybe that can get them on the call. But in sales, if I just don't actually paint the picture for what like the quick wins are gonna look like, how this person could start tracking their macros and tracking their calories and get on a workout plan and start to get 10,000 steps a day, like the person on the other side of the phone, a lot of times, isn't even gonna believe it, right? So yeah, definitely, more so want to have realistic results, but also like realistic results aren't always the most sexy thing, which is why that opportunity cost is so important.
Okay, sales is also a lot about mindsets. Like, what makes or breaks like the sales guy in terms of mindset and longevity?
Don't take anything personally. This person owes you nothing, and you're just there to help people. That's it. So diving a little bit deeper into the don't take anything personally, the people that get really, because there are going to be shitty prospects. There are going to be prospects that just piss you off. Like I've seen so many examples on sales calls of somebody that's being just completely horrible to one of my salespeople. But the sales guy that lets that like affect his energy and drag into the next 2, 3, 4 calls is the one that typically doesn't make it out. Like they just never succeed long term. In terms of like this person owing you nothing, like yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who break verbal commitments. They say they're going to do this, like cool, send over the agreement, I'll sign, we'll be ready to go by the end of the week. And then they don't sign, right? So you can play butthurt and like, oh man, this person said he was going to do it, these leads just suck, they're saying things, they're lying to me. Like this person owes you nothing, right? Like you need to get better at sales. You need to have ownership of that. It's your fault for not closing them on the call. It's your fault for not being able to see through the smoke screen or taking what they said at face value. So it's more so like I trusted the prospect too much. I need to get better at my job as opposed to, whining about the fact that you're just having, bad luck of the draw. And then the whole, I'm just there to help people because like I said, like this person wants to go from point A to point B, but going from point A to point B and making that transformation and making the decision that can get me there is usually going to be outside of my comfort zone. And people tend to fight like hell to stay inside of my comfort zone. So it's like, yeah, there is going to be hard closing, but I just need to remember like what I'm doing is a great service. Like people only have a negative connotation towards sales because when they're picturing sales, they're picturing the guy that's not helping anybody, right? They're picturing like the slimy used car salesman who's selling somebody a lemon. At the moment they drive it off the lot, it just fucking sputters out and doesn't work anymore. Yeah. Right? So if you're selling a good offer and you're helping people, that can keep you in sales for a long time as opposed to somebody who's treating this as such like a transactional business. Like if I go into every single call saying this person has $5,000 USD in their pocket and I'm going to transfer it to mine, like man, you'll get burnt out quickly. Because I've had periods in my life where I'm just like, all I'm thinking about in the sales process is just like, did I close? How much did I close? Did I close? How much did I close? Did I close? How much did I close? And when you're thinking of it that way, like it can work for a period of time. But that's really the only times in my career where I've experienced like real burnout. And it's because I'm looking at things the wrong way as opposed to just like, did I help this person? Yeah. Like even if they didn't sign with us, did I point them in the right direction? And like if I could view that as a win, it just becomes a lot more sustainable and a lot more ethical. And in my opinion, like long term, if we're zooming out from just looking at like a month to a year, 5 years, 10 years, I think you actually will make a lot more money that way.
And do you like reinforce it from time to time with your sales team?
All the time.
All the time.
Salespeople are babies. They're super
like case
studies. Yeah. They're like it's like they're on a team. They're usually the ones with the highest ego. And then also with the most fragile ego at the same time. So yeah, it takes a lot of reinforcement in terms of just like the values that I like to preach. It's that famous cliche, but a true cliche. Like they need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. That's why I meet with my team every single day and we go over this stuff all the time because I can say this and they can be like, oh yeah, that has merit and that's smart. But they're gonna forget it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think also in Belgium that needs to be part of like culture to share like wins with your sales
100%.
team like on a regular basis.
Because what they need to be reminded that they're helping people. Like we talk about client wins all the time because the positive clients are not the loudest. Like the clients that get great results, they're usually not the ones that are reaching out to the salespeople again. Sometimes they do, and when they do, that's awesome and it's appreciated. But a lot of times. If you don't show them the client wins because they're not involved on the client fulfillment side, the ones they're hearing from are the ones who are angry. And like that affects them, right? Because if I'm preaching, hey, you're here to help people, and all they're seeing is negativity, they're like, well, Dan's lying. We're not actually helping people. That's gonna fuck with their psyche a lot. So you definitely need to drown them in wins so that they can, believe that they're actually helping people, and also so that they have conviction. Because I mean, conviction, just believing what you're selling. If sales is a transference of belief, and they have no belief to transfer, obviously they're not going to be very good.
True, true. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone like struggling to convert their internet leads into like paying customers?
Watch your sales calls.
Rewatch them and then
Watch a lot of them. I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do with AI nowadays to go through like hundreds of transcripts at a time. I talked about this, but we use like Fireflies, for example, and Fireflies has a connector to Claude, so I can just easily ask like, hey, what's going on in Henry's calls? What are the most common objections that he's getting? Like all that stuff is possible now, but still, I mean, transcripts, AI, you can do a lot of stuff a lot quicker than you used to be able to do it. I still would never underestimate actually just sitting there and watching a call, because things like tonality, is my sales guy comfortable in silence? Is my sales guy too comfortable in silence to the point where at the end of the call, he's allowing people to speak first and they're asking off the call before he can actually ask the sales? Like all of those little things there, those insights usually don't take a sales genius to find. The main issue is business owners are usually too lazy to watch your sales calls. So watch your sales calls.
Yeah. Any final thoughts or advice for business owners who are like looking to like double down on the whole internet thing, internet lead generation?
Yeah, there's a lot of great information online, but if information was all we needed, we'd all be billionaires with six packs, and it's not enough, right? You actually have to implement as well. So in terms of like guys that I like with sales, Alex Ramosi is phenomenal. Cole Gordon, Taylor Welch, just watch this stuff, but then actually take the time to apply it. Like watch the sales call and be like, what are my guys doing here? Are they doing anything similar? What's my script look like? How different it is than that? Because just the lack of a process and the lack of iterating on that process and getting real feedback from your reps and from sales calls that you're watching, that's usually where the chain breaks. It's just people like they're not starting that process. They don't have a dashboard that shows how many scheduled calls they have, how many live calls, how many offers, how many closes. They're not ever looking at outside sales information from companies that are doing, $3 million a month, $5 million a month, $10 million a month, which is why I watch so much of this content, because I think we've gotten better and better at sales, but I realize that there's like fucking killer sales teams out there. I think I have a good sales team. I don't think we have like a killer like Navy SEALs level sales team. So I love the fact that we live in this day and age where I can go and I can watch videos on, how Cole Gordon built a $30 million a year sales team, and how Alex Ramosi, is able to sell, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consulting per week and do a fucking webinar where in one day he's making $100 million. So like take that stuff in, but just realize that like watching it and doing nothing is just mental masturbation. Like actually watch your sales calls, lay out your process, whatever that may look like, and figure out how you can start to apply that stuff, because there's a wealth of knowledge out there, but once again, you're not going to get rich off information alone. You have to do something with it. Yeah,
I think that's like the biggest thing in Belgium. They're so like far behind, I believe, on creating like processes. Like they believe the sales guy on their word, on what they are saying, instead of like actually recording calls or going with the sales guy, for example, in solar, going into the meeting, perhaps record the meeting, upload it to AI, of course, with consent of the customer. But that's like a huge deal to gather the data and do something with the data in order to make educated decisions on where you're going to move the sales process to actually improve on it.
100%. I'm gonna take your word for it, because I frankly have no idea what's going on in Belgium. But with like door-to-door sales, for example, too, I know like one of the bigger problems in that industry is the fact that everybody just looks at numbers. And a lot of times, because it's live conversations, they're not having any type of feedback on like what's actually happening here. So I have no idea if my sales guy is even like, these numbers could be completely fake. I could just walk around the neighborhood and say I knocked on 10 more doors just to hit my numbers for the day, which is why it's so important to actually do quality control. Like for me, I have to go in and I have to every now and then, and I have a team leader that does this now for me, but we have to listen to the actual cold calls, because somebody could just be, dial, hang up, dial, hang up, dial, hang up. Hey, Dan, I made $100 in a day. So like just making sure that, for example, if I was running a door-to-door sales team, I would literally just go out with some of my knockers there. And I would have people, with the consent of the client, I don't know what the laws look like there, but have like a recorder. in my pocket and, ask if, we're able to record this conversation, whatever way, so I can actually hear what they're saying.
Yeah, like only the bigger companies like actually do it. They say like, okay, is it okay if the call is being recorded and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
People think like it's a big constraint, but some customers are like really open to it to like train the guy.
Yeah.
If you frame it the correct way. So that's definitely something like business owners in Belgium like need to start doing.
Yep.
Because you have like these tools with AI.
Yeah.
You can literally say, what's a constraint? What are the bottlenecks?
Yep.
What is tonality like? AI like literally helps you to improve on the sales process.
Yeah, and I would say if AI is behind on one thing, it is kind of like that more so tonality aspect, like the soft skills, like actually being able to see that interaction, which is why like even in an age of AI, I would still recommend like literally just having a manager that's walking around with a rep for the day if they're doing door to door, if I can't record those calls, but like actually sitting there and listening to it, which isn't sexy. It's actually super boring for the most part, but I don't think I've ever sat there and watched a call for an hour and been like, I got nothing out of this. Every single time I'm getting a few nuggets that can help that rep and then also help the rest of the team as well. Because a lot of the times, people are sharing, the same issues, the same struggles, and it's usually not that rep's fault, it's just a failure in my process, which is once again, like that we preach ownership a lot to our sales reps. I would be a complete hypocrite if I didn't have ownership on my end and say like, oh yeah, this is more so a process issue on my end as opposed to, them being lazy or not having things figured out on their end.
Yeah. In terms of like entrepreneurship, is your experience still like being on this level that the most boring actions are like moving the needle the most?
I wouldn't even say I'm a good entrepreneur. So I don't know how to answer that question. I'm very much different. Like when you think of an entrepreneur, you're thinking like typically as like I'm either a visionary or an integrator. I'm really just somebody who spent 90% of his time getting really good at sales, taking thousands of sales calls. Like I'm just blessed to be partnered with great co-founders. So for me personally, the stuff that I talked about specifically is what moves the needle for sales. But in terms of like as an entrepreneur, like broad strokes, broad level, I feel like I'm not even qualified to answer that question. Like I would watch Daniel Fazio's content on marketing. I would watch Andre Hagel's content on fulfillment. And I would say, it's kind of like a combination of all those things. And whatever they tell you for those departments would probably be what I'd follow.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it was my final question. Thank you so much for making the
brother.
time and sharing with our Belgian audience like every insight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I feel like I speak a little too fast, so hopefully they can understand things. Or
we will definitely
this might
translate
be the
it.
first YouTube video you should put on like 0.75x speed as opposed to like 1.2, 1.5.
Yeah, they're pretty much like educated in English, so it won't be a problem, I think. And we'll definitely translate it with the correct subtitles.
Sweet.
So thank you so much, man.